Welcome. This is the podcast series dedicated to living a revenue culture. Everybody wants to make the maximum amount of profit possible. And we've learned over the last half a dozen years the only way to do that is to optimize your people in a low friction revenue science context. And so this podcast series is dedicated to bringing you people out there in the real world who are working on this, have kind of secret sauce, have succeeded, sometimes not succeeded, but they have something for all of us to learn about. Today, I'm thrilled to have John Kloian with us. John is the founder of JK Advisors. He's a stealth industry partner. John has built, managed, and exited companies. He's been a CIO, a CTO, a COO, always combining. One of the things I love when I work with John, he combines operational, I'm going to call it realities and technical skills with business thinking so that it's not any one of those individually, it's the how do you tie them all together. And I think part of that is he is one curious guy. He likes to learn new things, understand things that other people kind of just assume are landscape. And John wants to understand why are they landscape and how do they work and how do they fit together. So working with him is always fun. He's really good at working across silos, recognizing the silos exist and helping them leverage each other. And part of it is in his focus on understanding words. And I think I like to understand words, but John's my hero in that space. And he's really, really good at language and in revenue science and the revenue game. We really believe words are important. So John's kind of my hero in this space. So, and recently, John has just completed mastering CRO thinking and is now certified in revenue science. And we're thrilled to have him as one of our alumni. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me here. It's great. It was a lot of fun going through that certification. It's been an honor to work with you over the years and to see what it is that might emerge now that we're doing stuff outside of our last situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, John, and I know having worked with you every now and then, in addition to all the academic things and the business things, you started your career, I think, having something to do with boats. Um,
It wasn't. I went to DeVry here in town. I got out of the Navy in the mid 90s. I came here to go to school and I went to DeVry instead of going to ASU because DeVry had a schedule that was more, it started in the morning and it ended in the afternoon. If I went to ASU, it was all over the place. And sometimes I'd have to be on campus at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that wasn't going to work for me because I was newly married. We soon to have our first son on the way, and I needed to be able to work and all of that. So I went to DeVry and I got a degree in electronic engineering technology. It's a double ET, almost a double E, but not quite. And the internet came along when I was in school. I got to play around with Linux was coming around. Linus Torvalds was making Linux, and I was in with a group of other weirdos that we were into, non-mainstream things like that, and things we didn't have to pay a bunch of money to. And we were pretty curious, like you said. I think it's a pretty good word to describe me. Um, the learning things for the sake of learning them is something that motivates me a lot, even if I don't need to know it. I mean, if I'm
yep.
interested in it, I want to learn about it. So right around the time I got out of high school, we were building computers for people and we were building networks. And somehow got a big job, paid a lot of money. We built a network for this big company here in town. And that was able to sustain me for at least a year. And I didn't want to go work for a big company. So that gave me the opportunity to make the decision. I don't want to go work for a big company. I don't want to be nameless, faceless, person in some multinational company with thousands of employees. I like to know the people I work with. So I got to do that. And along that way, I met a gentleman who started a ISP. We still had dial-up ISPs back in the day.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even think we were up to 5,600 baud at this point, but we may have been close. And so he had an idea for a business, and he asked me to partner up with him. And so we started running the ISP and bringing in our customers and doing all that as we developed this business plan. And this was in the first .com era, when everybody was crazy and people were printing stocks like toilet paper, and people were millionaires on paper. And it was pretty heady time because there was a lot of money chasing technology. So we had a business plan and we were chasing some money. We raised $8 million in venture capital.
Wow.
And we built a data center. And so the technology was to sell bandwidth to companies who needed optimized bandwidth. They usually buy 2, 3, 4 connections to the internet for redundancy and to optimize how the traffic flows. So we had some technology that would take 3, 4, 5, 6 connections and optimize the routes. So if you're going to this destination on the internet, you use this provider. If you're going to this destination, you use that provider. So we had a way to test the speeds and keep a database and change the routers to always have this optimized. The name of the company was Opnix, and we built this data center down in Tempe. And the data center is still there, as a matter of fact. I think I'm not sure who owns it now, but it's a pretty decent data center. It's somehow involved in Microsoft Gaming Network and whatnot. It's been through a couple of owners, so that was a lot of fun. Anyways, we all know what happened in the .com era. Things went bust. Money got sucked dry. People had to pivot and change and all that stuff. And we made a bad hire. And the hire was more interested in politics than they were in helping the company succeed. So me and a few of the other leadership team, we left and we went off to do other things. So that was really my start in technology. I've never used my degree. I mean, I know what a resistor is and I know what a transistor is and all that stuff, but I never actually applied any of it in the real world. I've been working in internet and technology and building technological solutions and building companies based on technology or that use technology as a core of their business. I went straight from there after 3, 4 months, just taking some time off. Sitting around isn't good for me. I don't sit around very well. So I got a job. I got a job with a little company doing something I didn't even think, I didn't even know this was a thing. They had a business where they printed people's receivables on paper, and then they folded them on machines called inserters, and they shoved them in an envelope. They inserted them in an envelope. That's why they're called inserters, and they bulk mailed them for customers. So they primarily did business with people that were in the medical industry. They do a lot of billing, and they send out a lot of medical forms. I can't remember all the names of the medical forms, but it doesn't really matter. And they had a system by which people would upload their accounts receivable in text files. Yep. From AS400 systems or what have you, from QuickBooks or whatever it was. And we would parse out all the data. We would apply their business rules. We would use USPS software to see if somebody's moved or changed the address. And then we would have to optimize the address. You got to get the +4 digits on the zip. And then there's a couple other codes you got to get. And that allows you to get cheaper postage, right, when you send it in bulk. So that's how we made our money, right? Because that difference in postage that we could save them, they paid us a little bit more to do all this business logic for them and automate all this. So I didn't even know you could do this, but it was pretty cool because we melded all these manual operations with all this automation on the front. So I had a small team of people. Actually, it was me and another guy for a number of years. I think we ended up being like 4 people at the height of, we were doing this. And the cool thing about that is that I learned some of the things that intuitively made sense to me about how you're going to build something. As simple as, well, if you're going to have somebody work on something or build something to do something, they should go do the things so they understand how it works. So when they're back writing the code, they understand what the person who's going to interact with this code is, and then they're not separated from reality. So we all would go run the machines. We all did the work. Of all the stations, we did the things, and it was a lot of fun. And we built a pretty good system. I will tell you that we never got more than 20 employees. I think we were doing about $25 million of revenue. So if you do the math, per employee revenue was pretty good. And it started low and it went high, and we never got over 20 employees. Company ended up getting purchased for a fair amount of money. I didn't like the new owner, so I left. And that's when I went off and I worked for HomeSmart, and then I ended up at TTI where I worked with you. So that was really my beginning, and that's where I cut my teeth in technology. And as you said, I think I don't like saying it like this, but it's popular now. People say, "What's your superpower?" Right? If I had a superpower, it's understanding all these different aspects of an organization that typically don't care to understand each other, and they want to operate in their own silos and talk their own language and do their own things, and they forget, or they don't know. I don't know why they don't understand that it can be so much better when everybody coordinates and communicates and um, aligns the things they're doing to what it is the organization wants to get done. And we had the opportunity to do that. I mean, and it didn't matter what people do. You had guys running machines, stuffing boxes, people doing accounting. It was something to behold, to see. And I didn't even realize that that's what we had done, because I'd never worked for a big company. I came out of the Navy, very big company, a Navy on a small ship. I went to college. I had a startup, and that was like being in fantasy land. And then I had this job where we did all this really cool stuff. Then I got a job at another organization that didn't do that stuff, and I couldn't believe it. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's interesting, the way you describe it, because I think back in my own career, and some of the biggest learnings I got was when I was doing some of the most mundane, tactical kinds of work, and I saw all the gotchas, I saw all the gaps, I saw all the pain, and I couldn't understand why leadership would allow those things to happen.
Hmm.
And I'm is just as I was listening, I'm going, well, yeah, they allow it to happen because they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
You know, they
no idea.
start working in a car plant. You used to talk about people in white shirts, and the people in white shirts had really never worked in the plants. They came in as managers or supervisors or leaders. They really didn't know what the plant did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very, very, very interesting. I'm going to have to keep thinking about that because that is so true.
I
One of the
had
things, go ahead.
Oh, you just reminded me of something. I think I don't even, if it was my thinking or if it was something else I read from somebody, whatever. It was so long ago that I don't remember. So if I misattribute this, and I forgive me, I had this idea that there were two types of leader, and what if I was going to be a leader? I always found myself in leadership positions. I never thought of myself as a leader, but I always was like, "Oh, you go do this," right? For whatever reason, because I had a big mouth, or I would jump in, or whatever. And so I had this conception of what a good leader was made of. And there were two types in my book at this time. I think I was in my mid 20s, early 20s. And there's a type of leader that sits on the hill under an umbrella or in a tent, sipping champagne, watching his troops down in the field, engaging the enemy. And then there's the leader who's out front. He trains with them and he's out front and he's saying, "Follow me."
Yep.
He's part of the vanguard. He's not part of the rear guard. And I never wanted to be the dude sitting under the tent sipping champagne, because I didn't like that guy. And if I ever met him, I'd probably punch him in the face because it's terrible. And when you think about it in a business context, you're gonna lead people and tell people what to do and make decisions. And you make decisions in the vacuum of not knowing what it is you're asking the person to do. And you're probably not willing to do it in the first place. That is not a good leader in my mind, and not someone that earns a lot of respect in my book.
So you must have liked Alexander the Great.
Yeah, yeah, he was something else.
So one of the things you and I have talked about frequently is purpose. So talk a little bit about, your purpose as you go through your career. What drives you that's, that's who you are and what's important to you?
Still being refined. I think every day it gets a little bit more clear. It was pretty opaque when I was in my 20s, but I had some hard lines about what I was going to do and what I didn't want to do, in spite of what people thought I was capable of. And I didn't know it when I was young. I wouldn't be able to say it the way that I could say it now, but I find myself having pursued that was very big to me, and the words mean a lot more to me now, and I could probably add a lot more clarity to it. But back then, I always had a why, right? And it was what got me out of the bed, and it was what made me do things, even in spite of people saying that's crazy, you shouldn't do that, or why don't you do this? This is easier, because I had a why. I didn't know to call it a why. I just know this is what I'm going to do. This is the way I feel, and it needs to be done, and I'm going to go do it. And here's going to be the outcome. Now I would say that's why. That's purpose. And without purpose or without a why, what are you doing? How can you do anything? How can you know if you've done what you're supposed to do? Or, if someone asks you to give an account of why are you doing that? If you don't know why you're doing that, what are you doing? Right? And anything. I mean, as simple as chores around the house. Why am I doing this? To what are you doing in your life? So that was one thing. The other one was real simple. Golden rule. Treat other people the way you wanted to be treated. Right? And always try to give, not get.
Yep.
So that was kind of a North Star for me most of my life. It still is. But now it's gotten a lot clearer. Now I can be more articulate when I talk to people, or when people say, I have no idea why everything around me is burning and I can't get anything to go. And we can ask a few questions and help, and the person can see, oh, okay, now I understand. And they can put out the fires, and maybe they can go on and do that.
Uh, Now that kind of leads to over your shoulder we have do more smart stuff, and I know smart stuff is has a link to your why. And so tell us about smart stuff and why you have made that kind of a touchstone for you and for your work and for where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So, well, I'll try to be articulate here. I might ramble on for a minute, because this is something that's still forming in my mind. I stepped away from my job at the end of last year to pursue a couple of other things. One of them is doing more smart stuff. That's some consulting work, and there's a couple of other startups that are in the works. They're all orbiting around each other in the same thing. Now, when I was younger, we can all probably remember we had a job where we were asked to do some pretty stupid stuff, right? And we had no idea, why am I doing this? This is dumb. Why we're wasting money, right? When I was in the Navy, oh my gosh, when I was in the Navy, I watched people in leadership positions that allegedly knew better waste millions and millions of dollars in 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes without even thinking twice about it. Millions of dollars, right? And I, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? What is the matter with you? I mean, things as simple as like troubleshooting something that's going wrong and starting with the most expensive, most timely thing to change, instead of starting with the thing that's cheapest that takes 5 minutes to change. I mean, if you don't know what's wrong, where are you going to start? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the level of stupid. That's stupid. I don't
Yep.
care who you are. That's stupid. And when we're talking about millions of dollars and people's lives on the line, and in a war zone, that is incredibly stupid. So I have a very low tolerance for stupidity on purpose, right? Ignorance, fine. We're all ignorant. There's a million things that I'm ignorant of, but when you're stupid on purpose, I got a real low tolerance for that. In a business context, we're dealing with people's money, we're dealing with people's time and doing things. And I like to be efficient. I blame my parents for this when they give me chores and I hated doing the chores, and they said, well, make a game of it and see how short a time you can do it in, or how well you could do it, or how much better you could do it the next time. So everything was always in that context. And so when you marry purpose why am I doing something, right? What we say, a low friction context. You give everybody a why, you give them the same language, you all point them in a direction, you unite them and you align them, and everybody's going off. Okay, that's great. That's the context. It's perfect. Now we got to do the things. We have to figure out what to do. We have to figure out what not to do. We have to figure out when to do it. And then we have to figure out how to do it. And then we have to figure out who's going to do it. And those things need to be organized and they need to be repeatable. And there is an incredible amount of communication. Invariably what happens, and this is why this means a lot to me, is because I have seen this happen and I've talked to a number of people in all my years, and this seems to be something that happens in most places. Is people have a strategy, even if it's not, like a revenue science based strategy. They may have a decent strategy, right? And then they go off and they do all the things they normally did 2 days before they came together to do the strategy in the way that they used to do it. And the way that they used to do it invariably blocked each other from getting the things done. And they would go and they go through this cycle year after year after year. And some companies failed and some succeeded. Well, the ones that succeeded, they didn't succeed because they were doing good stuff. They succeeded because they were in a bubble.
Yep.
Because everybody wanted what they had. It wasn't because they were great. It wasn't because they were good. And when hard times hit, they went out of business. That really frustrates me. It's stupid.
Yep.
It's not smart. It's dumb. There's all this dumb stuff, right? So that's what I saw when we were working together. There's Revenue Science. This is great. This is a great context that we're going to apply to all the things. But now we have to organize the people. And that is something that has always resonated with me. How do we organize the people? How do we coordinate across the silos? The silos are fine working on their own, but it's across the silos. What are you doing that's going to block me? What do I need to do so I don't block you? I mean, it's really all theory of constraints kind of stuff, but it's pretty simple at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then organize the people so they talk on a regular basis, not go off to your corners and do the things. That's smart stuff. And that I'm fairly passionate about.
When it shows.
Yeah. Well, no one's ever accused me of being dispassionate.
John, I just think that is so necessary. And I'm going to steal your stupid on purpose. That just it opens windows and sets off, church bells, because that is exactly what's happening. And somehow it's okay. That's the part that still amazes me, that people even know it's stupid. I remember when I worked in the auto industries back, first job out of high school, and came in on a Saturday for time and a half. And my boss said, go grab your jackhammers and your tools and go up to this particular location. And he said, dig a hole. I said, okay, how big a hole? He said, the exact size you can fill in tomorrow on double time. And I thought, that sounds like stupid on purpose to me.
Yeah.
No, but people keep doing it. So you go, okay, I guess I don't understand it, but I'm learning from it.
It frustrates me. And you may have noticed this about me. I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut.
Well, thank goodness. Because as you think about this, um, what's the message? And this is kind of a rhetorical question, but what's the message when leadership does stupid on purpose to the rest of the organization and to the market?
Oh, it's a terrible message. It's a confusing message. It's a demotivating message. It has so many ways that it manifests itself, and it almost always manifests itself in high turnover, dissatisfied employees, unactualized employees, to borrow a phrase from Maslow. It's all negative.
Yep.
Everything is negative, and people usually end up understanding that the leadership are, this is going to be a harsh term, are liars, and,
Yeah.
or at the very least hypocrites, because they say one thing and they behave another way. Um, it, and there's so many other negative consequences that flow from that kind of thinking and that kind of mentality. And I don't know what motivates people. I hear your story. I suspect somebody was cooking money out of the company because they wanted to be able to put some numbers somewhere that they were being measured by,
Yep.
that made them look good, or line their pocket or something. There was something that wasn't motivated through what made the company better, or what moved the
Yeah.
company along, or what was good for the employees. Those were not things. And I tell you what, everyone picks up on those. Even if they can't articulate it, they can
Oh
intuit
yeah.
it. And it's got a
Yeah.
negative vibe, right? You can always tell when somebody walks in the room, there's a dark cloud is around them, and they're like, oh boy, here's so and so again. And then another person comes in, and a rays of sunshine come with them. That's what I mean by vibes. Those negative vibes permeate organizations.
Yep. It's this is a really um, good conversation for me personally because one of the things, and I know you know this, in the smart rev work, the recognition that if you have if you have developed your own true north, so you know the difference between a decision that adds value to your customer and margin to you, and a decision that subtracts value from your customer and margin from you. That smart decisions add value and margin, dumb decisions subtract. And now part of our purpose is that everybody who goes through uh, mastery can make smart decisions 100% of the time. Now, they're not perfect decisions, and but when you decide you're intentionally trying to add value to the buyer and margin to yourself, you're never making a decision that's subtracting margin and value. And I'm sure in smart stuff, there's a way to start to measure those decisions in some similar way. And no perfection in there in either case, I don't think, but it's the consistency of uh, honoring your purpose and honoring those that you're there to serve and that, your responsibility. And so that's for me in the last 2 years been just this wonderful awareness that you literally can make smart decisions 100% of the time if you're willing.
Yeah, if you're willing. I can't remember when this occurred to me. We may have been in one of our classes. Is that, there's a lot of theory of constraints in some of the stuff that we're talking about. When we start talking about why we're doing things, and we take the frame of reference as the buyer back in terms of defining who that is and what do they value and all of those things, it just, I had this thing pop into my head, and I still believe it. Maybe I'll say it better in the future, is there is no more humane way that I can think of to organize a group of people to go do something. Because here's why I say that. When I mentioned the golden rule, buyer back thinking is the golden rule in an organizational context, because you're putting the other person before their needs, before yours. And what happens as a result is givers get,
Yeah.
right? And they usually get abundantly because they gave without consideration for what they're going to get. The getting just happens as a result of the giving, because the person, the givee, is that the right term? The
Yeah.
givee was grateful for it. And
Yep.
there's just a way that, I know this is going to sound very hippy dippy, but all that positivity that results from that frame of reference and all of that doing, and the buyer being grateful on that, it has a multiplicative effect. If I
Yes.
said that right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if we take what you just said and use kind of business tactical discussion today, one of the things that that giving creates is really rapid, sincere, and quite deep trust.
Oh, yes.
And people will tell you today, we're going to teach you how to create a trusted relationship. And they have all this kind of tactical, crazy stuff you do. And where trust really comes from is what you were talking about, where I'm really here to give to you. And there are times I'm going to give to you where I don't get anything back today, and
Mhm.
I'm not expecting it. I just know someday the universe is going to compensate me for that. And it could be you become my client, or you buy something, or it could be you refer me to somebody, or you come to work for me, or there's an infinite number of surprising ways that you can get massive returns because you gave to somebody else, and now they not only do they trust you, but they're compelled to have you succeed because they believe what you believe and they want to see people like them be successful.
Exactly. And so on and so on and so on in our homes, in our communities, in our towns, and our cities. It's crazy because it sounds so simple, right? Everybody wants a formula. Everyone wants a hack. Give me a hack.
Yep.
This is a hack. It really is. It really is this simple in your life and in your business. It's this simple. And we can layer on all this stuff about, because there's all the normal business stuff. I mean, you still have to do accounting, you still have to do bookkeeping,
Yep.
you have to make measurements, you have to organize people and all of that. That doesn't shortcut any of the actual hard work, but the frame of reference is everything.
Yep. So this is really. I knew we were going to have some fun today. Um, so let's kind of jump and talk about what you see. Uh, because when you started out talking about ISPs and BAUD, I don't think I'd heard BAUD in about 5 years as a word. But I remember the first time we hooked up a modem, it was 300.
Yeah.
So, I remember all those days. What do you see coming? As you think about both your career, because you've got, a lot of years left, or you think about people coming into the market, what do you think is critical for us to pay attention to that,
I am probably going to say some unpopular things right now. Is that I prefer to read 2,000-year-old books than I do read new books. And as a result of that, I find over and over and over again that there isn't any situation that we are experiencing right now, or that we will experience in the future, or our children or our grandchildren, excuse me, will experience that hasn't been experienced before. The circumstances or the accoutrements of the experience may change, but the circumstance and the experience itself doesn't. I've read way too many books spanning way too many years where I could easily say, man, that's today, or
Yep.
that was 20 years ago, or boy, that sounds like the future. So the more it changes, the more it stays the same. Solomon said there's no new thing under the sun, and I absolutely believe he was 100% spot on. So given that, how do we comport ourselves? Well, again, I come back to this ethos that we are talking about is having concern for the other person
Yep.
is primary, right? Especially in a business. Because if you care about your ideal buyer and you know who that person is, I'm using revenue science lingo now because I can't help it because I like it and it makes sense to me. And you know what it is they value, and you make it your primary concern to transfer maximum value to that person that they're willing to pay you money for. I don't care what happens. I don't care what technology comes out. You will always be successful because you'll be more than agile. You'll be preemptively adaptive.
Yep.
And so that is the way I view the future. So I take a lot of comfort in that, right? That's a nice big old rock to tie my ship to. I don't care how murky the waters get, as long as I stay to the primary principles, that's going to give me something solid to go on. The other one is technology always changes. It's always changing. It's There's going to be something we probably can dream of, because technology is iterative. It always builds on itself. You don't get something new that you've never seen before ever, that nobody had a conception of. You're going to see something that's based on something that came before that. It's always moving, it's always evolving. We're going to be able to process more bits and do more cool stuff and have more luxury as a result of it. When I say luxury, I mean in terms of time it takes to do chores, right? You think about a
Yeah.
washing versus a washing machine, things like that. And when those things happen, you have people who resist it, you have people who embrace it, and then you have people in the middle who see it, I think, rightly for what it is, just another tool. And to figure out what's the right application of that tool and how to employ it as you go about your business, transferring value to your ideal buyer. It's not going to take your jobs. It's not going to destroy the world. And but you can overuse it. It's not a panacea. It's not going to solve all the world's problems. And we run in these pendulums. I mean, think about AI. AI is going to do everything for us. It's going to take all of our jobs and it's going to destroy us. Well, we're figuring out as time goes on, and I think in about 8 years, when we look back, we're going to realize, oh, wow, AI has been around with us for 20 years. We just have a new iteration of AI. It's called generative AI, and now it's doing some things, but it's been around for 20 years, right? This is machine learning. It's just a refinement of machine learning. A lot of the mathematical principles and all that, these, like I said, this is all iterative. So we'll look back in 10 years as we're grinding our teeth about some new piece of technology, and we'll look back and go, oh, AI, I'm oversimplifying here, but once it looked like it was going to solve all the world's problems and destroy humanity, oh, it just turns out it's a dead blow hammer. And I use
Yeah.
it to bang out these certain things, and I use this hammer to do these certain things. This is the way technology goes. It's always gone this way. Look at the horse and buggy in the car, and you can go on, and you can find this repeating over and over again. And I will tell you this: technology, this really chaps my hide, is what I was going to say. When people talk about how technology is going to do something to human beings or destroy people or take a job, as if it's sentient, as if it has a will of its own. Technology is amoral, first of all. It's not evil. It's not good. It's amoral. Any inanimate object is amoral by definition. And the person who wields the inanimate object, it's their will decides if it's used for good or if it's used for bad. So AI, are some bad actors going to use it for nefarious means to try and con people and steal money and do all these things? Yes. And if it wasn't AI, they'd use baseball bats and knives and guns and all kinds of stuff to do whatever nefarious things they're going to do, because nefarious people do nefarious things.
Yep.
And good people use those very same things that the bad people use for evil to do good. It always happens. It always goes that way. It doesn't matter when we look at in time, all throughout time, that's the way it works. The technology is amoral. It's neither good nor bad. It's the human that wields it that decides whether it's going to be used for good and bad. We're going to see the same thing with AI, and whatever else it comes next week, next year, 10 years from now is going to be the same. I bring it all back to what I started this diatribe with, is that if you focus on your buyer and what they value and concern yourself with transferring maximum value to that person, you're going to be fine no matter what the circumstance.
Well, I am 100 first, like you. I read lots of books on subjects that are at least 1,000 years old. So uh, now I'm reading a modern book on John Coulter. So that one's only 200 years old. But it's the lessons you learn, because people are still pretty much people. And as
Yeah.
you talk about AI, the last job I had before I started what I'm doing now, which was 1989, the last job I had was selling AI. So, it's been around for more than a little while.
Yeah.
Um, Nobody was buying it back then, but we were selling it. I totally agree with you. And we are so negligent by not trying to understand the lessons that we could have already learned if we would just pay attention. But somehow we're not good at that. Uh,
Yeah.
so, what this has been great. The last thing I'd like to ask you is, what advice do you have? And I'm going to ask you for two versions. One for new people coming into business, whether it's as an entrepreneur or as a technologist, or they're starting their career. What should they be thinking about, focused on, aware of? And then the second question is for leaders in today's world, what should they be doing that maybe they haven't been doing up to now?
Wow. I have I don't know what this is, but usually I have an intuition or a feeling which way to go, or when a problem arises itself. And a question is a type of problem.
Yeah.
And immediately, this is why I paused to make sure that I had this thought correctly. There is a similarity in the way that I'm going to answer for both of those people. And I think that's the way I should answer. I could probably give you, if you ask this question over a course of 10 days, I may give you 10 different answers because there are a lot of different aspects. I mean, a lot of books have been written about this subject, how to run a business, how to be a leader. I mean, oh my gosh, how many new how to be a leader books are written every
Oh.
year? Or how to run a business, or how to, oh my gosh. The, all those books are great and they're all worthless at the same time. I don't remember who said it. He also said, all models are broken and they all have value, right? So I say that in the same vein. I can't remember who said that, and I don't know if that's exactly the way they said that, but it's
Yep.
true, right? There is no universal definition for any of this stuff. This is why I love revenue science, because it really does put the individual or the human first. So this is the vein or the context that I'm going to give the answer about both of these people. New people coming into business, listen to the people who've gone before you. Learn what it is you can learn from the mistakes that they've made. Be willing to make mistakes, because if you don't make mistakes, you're not trying. You're never going to get it perfect. And anybody who never tried didn't ever go anywhere. So that's all okay. The big thing is, though, don't come in thinking you have a formula, or you read some book and now I have a formula, I'm going to start a business. If Think about the people, consider the people, consider the people in the organization, or even if you're a one man or one woman shop, consider yourself and consider who it is you're trying to do business with. That's right. Put the person back in. And this is the problem with not all the books. So I'm overgeneralizing, but most of the books, since we had the Industrial Revolution to now, there's starting to be a change within the last few years. And people like Covey and others of his ilk have been writing books about this, that the days of managing things are over. People are not things, and not every book, but most of the books that are in the shelves that are in the business leadership category are how to treat people like you treat things, right? Right? We're trying to make watchmaking factories instead of beekeepers, and I'm stealing that from the gentleman who wrote Navigating the Growth Curve. I love it. Stephen Fisher, I think, was his name. And I love that analogy. I won't get into explain it, but I use it a lot. is it's the people are important. And if you keep the people first and foremost in your mind, treating people as you want to be treated, your customer, your employees, yourself, all of those things, that's the best thing you can do for your business, right? I don't care what your idea is or what you're going to revolutionize, this, that, and the other thing. You may live in a bubble and you may make some money, but at the end of the day, if it's not centered around your buyer and transferring value and being humane, you're not going to be fulfilled. Your buyers aren't going to be fulfilled, and neither are your employees. Why? Because you're transactional, and transactions have no substance.
Yep.
And to today's leaders, what could you be doing? Changing your perspective, unlearning how to manage people like things, and learn how to manage people like people. You don't manage, you provide the context and the place for the people to flourish. Right? You're either dictating, go here, do this, do those things. That's great. If you're in a war and you need to take a hill, but if you're in a work context and you really believe that people are your greatest resource, then the worst thing you can do is manage them like things, because you've stifled their ability to be humans and to use their creativity and their ingenuity. And this is the brilliance of revenue science, chief revenue officer thinking, is that you give those people the context in which to flourish. And I'll tie this all around, but people make a big deal about culture, organizational culture, right? There's a lot of books people are writing. There's millions and millions of tens or maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars wrapped up in writing books about culture and blogs and posts and movies and this, that, and the other thing. And they almost invariably all center around activities. Go bowling, go on a team building exercise, trust falls, so on and so forth. You get my meaning. And all that's crap. Forgive my language. That's all crap that doesn't build culture. Yeah, it might give an experience and maybe you got a funny story and those things, but you didn't change the culture of your organization, because you still have all the same problems you had before you went off to go to that retreat in the woods. How you do the work is your culture.
Yep.
That's it. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Right? I can tell you this, having worked construction for a number of years as a rough frame carpenter, rough frame carpentry crews don't have culture problems. None. None whatsoever. Why? Because they all know what to do. They all know their jobs. They all know how to coordinate with each other. They all know how to read the plan and do the things and pound the nails and lift the walls up and level them and all those things. They show up, they do the work, they leave. Maybe they have lunch together. Maybe they have a couple of beers after work to just unwind, and that's it. They don't have to have a team building exercise afterwards. They don't need to have off-site activities or extracurricular activities with their families or that. They have camaraderie. They have good morale. They are a tight-knit group, and they actually will defend each other against some other crew if somebody's talking trash to them while you're building a neighborhood. That is culture, and you can't fake it. You can't pizza party your way into it. You have to show up and organize and do the work. You can't do that unless you've united and aligned everybody in the proper low friction context, focused with a good true north.
John, that may be the best answer I've ever heard. Thank you. That's spectacular. And I know I've heard you mention that before, and it is just so beautiful. It's so specific. And, when you've been in those situations with that kind of team that looks at life that way, it's magical.
It's magical. It's magical. It's actually so just to add on to that, the antithesis of that is, think about a company. You go to work, you're there 9 to 5. We don't really work those hours anymore. I don't. Some people do, but most of us, they're different. You put your 9 to 5, or you punch your clock, you do your 8 hours or whatever it is, and the work and the company says, we're going to have a team building exercise. It's off that clock. It's after those hours, right? How disrespectful is that to the employee? Are you paying the employee to show up for this thing after they put in their 8 hours? Are you sending a note to the family that you're depriving them of their time with their children or with their wives after they've worked, requiring them to come to this team building exercise? It's insulting and it's disrespectful. And people do it all day long, and they don't think anything of or about what it is they're doing to that employee or to the culture.
Well, that's because the leaders are sitting on the side of the hill,
That's exactly right.
sitting on the side of the hill. Well, John, this has been we wanted this to be fun, and we wanted people to hear some new things they may not have heard before. So, one last thing: is there something you'd like to leave us with?
Think about your buyer. Figure out who that is and think about them and what they value, and then focus your activities on delivering it to them, and you will have all kinds of success.
Well, thank you. This has been fun. I knew it was going to be fun, and I can't wait to see the final podcast. And we're going to break it down into some clips that I think are just going to be a hoot. So thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
So everybody, I'm sure you had as much fun as I did today watching this. And just remember, 2 weeks from now there'll be another one, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks.